Welcome back. This is still Good Morning Kenya. Thank you for staying with us. Now, from that discussion that Victor had, we are moving to matters of job opportunities in the digital space. This is especially for youths who are accounting for a large population that are unemployed. So what opportunities are there in the digital space? And for this, we are being helped by David Millary on my father's left. He's the president of Edu Plus International. And my nearest left here, I have Humphrey Muchuma, who's the founder and MD of Inua AI Solutions. Karibuni, gentlemen, welcome.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we want to talk about the digital economy. There's been some projections that by 2025, it'll account for 9.24% of the total GDP in Kenya. So we want to understand the digital economy, the gig economy. We use it, here and there, but maybe someone doesn't know what it is about. Maybe I'll start with you, David.
Well, it's an interesting question. Of course, we always look to the future because of the pace that technology moves. So because of the pace of technology moving, we also have to move with that pace. Well, when governments set those standards of how much technology is going to be part of the GDP, I think that some of the solutions have to come from the ground up. Some companies that in technology that set a foundation from, very much going from small companies and then using the actual marketplace, not just the Kenyan market, but the global marketplace, to grow organically as a small company and then get to be a larger entity in the right way. That is utilizing the revenue that comes from the company in the right way to reinvest in the employees and also, of course, the community.
Okay. And I would want to ask, you two gentlemen are very enthusiastic and passionate about helping the youths to get into the digital space and get opportunities out of it. Why is this so, Humphrey?
Yeah, it's a passion. I mean, I've been in the industry for around 18 years and I've seen it evolving. I've helped build startups, some with development partners, and of course my former employer. And when you look at these young people, they have a lot of, passion. Yeah. But they don't know where to take it to because they don't have the opportunity to be trained, maybe to be given an opportunity for, career development. So the reason we are so passionate about is because we see these young people who are enthusiastic. It's only that they don't have the opportunity. We would like to give them the opportunity. So when David and I met in the US, we're having, this is should be around in around October in 2018. We're having this discussion, and actually we were aligned, with what my thoughts were, his thoughts were about the vision that we're thinking about. So basically, it's made us start thinking about, the direction we were to take, moving forward. So when we met later on, after approximately around 3 to 6 months, we thought about like these young people are here. The only thing that they're missing is the opportunity to be, connected to these jobs. And how do we do that? But there's a gap they had that exists in the market right now, and that's the training aspect. So David and I thought about the training. So how do we position our young people to these jobs? Training.
So training.
Training.
You went into training. That's what you're doing. Exactly. You're training youths on the different skills that are there so that they maximize in their potential in the digital space and the opportunities that are there.
Exactly. So we train them. So we hire, train, and of course position them for these jobs that are in the market. But it's very important for the young people also to understand that you may have the skills, but it's also critical for you to have the right kind of training to position you to take up these digital jobs in the market space.
Okay, I'm curious what you mean by that. Maybe Humphrey will expand on that. So you might have the skills, but you need the training. But when you have the skills, it means that you know how to do it. So why do you need the training?
Well, that's a really interesting point. It's good to kind of investigate what that means. I think it's very important to understand what the opportunity is, right? So we talk about the word opportunity, but sometimes people think about that in different terms. Those young people, depending on where they are, they think when you say, here's an opportunity, everybody has a different definition. So when we started discussing, Humphrey and I, we said, we will look at the marketplace and we'll look at a growing marketplace in some sector. And I think all sectors are digital. every space is digital, right?
Everything is digital.
And you agreed with me, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So if every space is digital, then we have to be more exact. Instead of being so broad, we can say, here's a market that we think is growing. Now, this could be anywhere in the world. How do we train specifically our young people who have basic computer skills? There's plenty of that, in specific skills to then help in that marketplace, which is growing.
Okay.
So it's very, very specific. You don't want to train before defining what the market is.
Yeah.
You define the market and you say it's going to be this. Now, markets change, we know that, but we can be ready for that. And then you start training them specific to the market.
Okay. Yeah. And would you say that is the unique aspect of what you're doing as compared to what other training institutions that are there? Because we have training institutions on matters digital, capacity building for the youth especially. So is the difference now identifying the market, what the market wants, and now training in line with that?
Exactly. So you have the skills. We've trained you, but we're not just training you, but we're training you to position you for success. And the success will come about by you understanding what is there in the market. And we're not just looking at right now, we're looking at 50 years down the line, 10, you can say 5, 10, 20 years down the line. How does the digital space look like? So for us, I think the key differentiator will be we go an extra mile to connect these young people with these jobs, and their full-time opportunities for these young people. So we will train you at the same time, as we are training, you're also building opportunities, finding partners whom we share the same vision, working with us to provide these digital opportunities for them.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm curious about what opportunities, what market is there now currently in Kenya? What have you identified? Maybe Humphrey will tell us that.
Okay, well, I think the marketplace we need to be looking at is the global marketplace, and that's the thing that needs to be understood, that yes, there is a Kenya marketplace. It's growing. We know Kenya is a wonderfully growing country, but the global market affects us in Kenya, and who understands that? Should it just be a few people that understand the global markets, or should the young people have a good understanding of what those global markets, not only what those global markets are, but how do they fit into the global market? Because I think that one of the things that technology has done, it's allowed us to participate in the global market much easier today than 10 years ago. Yeah, now we are, we are a global village, so everything can be done, anything is possible. So explaining that to somebody who's young, especially, we have a large percentage of our young people coming from difficult backgrounds. And so to explain to them, it takes some time to say, hey, you are participating in a global marketplace. What does that mean? So part of us, our initiative is not just giving them a job and paying them for it. It's also the educational piece to say, do you understand what you're doing and why are you doing it? And sometimes companies just say, just do the work. Don't worry about it. I'll pay you. You do the work. Don't ask questions. And I think that's just an old way of thinking. The new way that's going to sustain companies is defining it at all the levels of the organization, so that the young people and their communities that they're in understand it. And I think that knowledge is power for them. And we are trying to empower these young people in ways that I believe we haven't done before in this way, in this very specific way. A combination of the partners that Humphrey's talking about, universities, very large organizations, technology organizations that are global, and the companies you mentioned that are giving this training have already been here giving this training. It's good that they're doing that, because when they come to us, they already have some of those skills. Maybe not enough to do what they need to do, but at least they have something. So we don't look like, oh, that's bad. We say, no, thank God that those companies are doing it, because these young people are coming to us with those skills, and we just enhance them and then give them the rest of the education to say, do you know why you're doing it? Do you understand how big the world is and how small it is at the same time because of technology? Okay,
and we'll delve into that a bit more. But first, I want to understand what opportunities are there for someone who doesn't even know that there are opportunities in the digital space. So what work is there? Is there work in the digital space?
A lot. Yeah. There is a lot. Actually, every area of the professional services is basically included. We have in marketing, sales, IT. You'll be surprised that we also have in photo editing, video editing, like what you're doing right now. All right. We have close to 90 young people, working with us, doing a lot of photo editing, video editing for our client and our business partner in the US.
So you're working remotely, and editing is not something that maybe someone would think
exactly.
you would work for a country that is not here. You'd something that you work remotely for. So it's therefore across all professions.
It's actually across all professions, and right now, you know, you can actually call a doctor. This what do you call it, David? Is it
telemedicine?
Telemedicine. Yeah, telemedicine. And while we were in the US, it's the first time I actually heard about telemedicine. That's in 2018. I know it's something that maybe may have been there, but every other profession basically is getting into the digital space, and there's no limitation to it. It's just getting, you know, the right kind of exposure. And then the kind of training. But most important, like what David and I have just mentioned, is positioning these young people, you know, in the right places and getting them to understand why they're doing this, you know. So once you get to understand why you're doing it, you're able to bring some kind of creativity, innovation. That's what you're trying to build. We're not just giving you a job.
So you're moving away from just do this task, I'll pay for it, but you know why you're doing that job, so you can make the most out of it.
Exactly, ownership.
For yourself.
So actually, ownership is the key piece of it. So you're actually owning the process. So you're able to contribute to the process itself. Not just doing the work. So in the digital space, you're submitting it, it's done. No. Yeah. So connecting these dots is very important. Yeah, and we can actually, and David did mention about, you know, building that ecosystem. It's very important that we do that. And it should start, you know, right with the educational institutions, the corporate companies, and then training institutions, and the institutions that are organizations or companies that are offering opportunities like what we are doing in the digital space.
So where does this ecosystem, where should it start? Is it from primary school that they should, you know, link to training all the way to the university, and then after that, so maybe take us through, give us a clear picture of how that ecosystem should look like. Yeah,
so just connecting the child, you know, identifying what they basically are passionate about. It could be sometimes hard because they keep changing. I want to be a pilot, I want to be a doctor, and all that.
Lawyer,
but just give them the digital basics. As they grow up, they'll get to understand which space they actually fit in the most and what they're passionate about. So right from primary, you know, going all the way to high school, to the university, and then, so what happens after university? For us, what we feel like is, by the time you actually get to the university in your first year, you should actually start identifying what you're doing. You shouldn't wait until you're out of university. That's when you're going to look for work. We can provide companies like ours, providing internship opportunities for these young people. You know, as they study, they get to understand where they're heading, the direction they're taking, what is there for me. They're able to plan well in advance. We've managed to train a number of them. Some of them were actually detained for 1 year just to make sure that they're positioned in the right profession. Okay, quite interesting. And what about, you're talking about, we have talked about any profession can get into the digital space, but this, you know, when you think about the digital workspace, at the top of your head, you would think, someone would think about the professional academic writing, you know, the transcription, those are the basic ones. So do you also offer that? Are they also important, or are they just, they don't hold as much water than that, just to help you get some little income, but maybe you major on a particular one that you major on?
Yeah, you know, I think it's good for young people to have a variety of experiences, right? Because I think that's when they learn the most, you know, when they see different things, different ways of doing things. Usually there's not just one path that everybody goes from A to Z and then you succeed, right? We know that there are twists and turns in the road, and some of those twists and turns are okay because they're still getting some knowledge. But in terms of talking about the ecosystem, really what we're talking about is how does the private industry and the government and educational institutions work together to do the right thing to lift up young people to be ready for the digital economy. There's going to be probably 5 million open cybersecurity jobs in the next 10 years. So if there's going to be that many that are open, obviously not we can't fill all of them, but there should be a significant amount of cybersecurity jobs that are filled by very talented Kenyans, young people. Yeah. And so that was the conversation that Humphrey and I had 2 years ago. And so we've invested in that to get ready, because you have to look ahead. You have to understand the marketplace first, you know, and then you can communicate with your ecosystem, whether it's the government or whether it's educational institutions. You come with some knowledge and some experience that says, hey, this is what we're seeing, so that at least we know what each other is doing, because I think that we all want the same thing, is to lift up the young people to success, which is wonderful for the country as we look at that GDP number that we want to get to, right? The goal, right? That's important, right?
Right. Yeah.
But there's ways of getting there, and I don't think that just one of the ecosystem can work without the cooperation amongst it. And sometimes that cooperation is difficult, but I think it's solvable if we do it the right way.
All right. What about the disadvantaged population? Because we're talking about the digital space and work in the digital space. So that means technology. So technology means you have to have a gadget that gets you online, to the internet. What about that person, that young person in the slums? They can't afford that. That's a luxury to them, but yet they have this potential in them. So what should be done, or what is being done towards that?
So first, I'll talk about what you're doing. We close to, let's say, 90% of our workforce right now are actually marginalized, coming from marginalized communities or marginalized spaces. So we will hire them, train them, and we understand. You should attend one of our interviews process. Some of them are quiet, but we do know how. You know, we don't just dismiss them, but we know they're only afraid. We try to make them comfortable, understand. Some of them, actually, we hired them and they were really quiet. Right now, they're the most talkative in the office, and they actually stand in front of teams and to address and, you know, coach, mentor, give debriefs, briefs, meetings, and you'll be surprised. They have the potential. It's only that they haven't been given. They're just dismissed. And then some of them will be because of the kind of experience they went through in their interviewing processes with other places. But you've brought in a very good point about what do we do about them. So as a company, we will train them, we'll give them an opportunity to work with us from our offices. We have the equipment, and then we also have a very strategic partner whom we're working with, that's Dimension Data, who basically provides us with the technology and the workspace area. So that makes it easy for us in terms of even business continuity, because they're actually amongst the best that you can speak about. So we'll provide them with that. But another option will be financing, and financing is a big challenge in the digital space. I know right now we have the Hustlers Fund. Everybody's talking about it. But I'll advise the young people to be very careful, you know, and when they're going out to get the funds, let's say they want to invest in a laptop, you know, get internet connectivity, do your research, do it right. The opportunity is there for you to get the funds. But most importantly, do some research, get to understand what you're getting into. Do I still need just a little bit of training? There are some other institutions that are providing training, free training, or you just pay 1,000 shillings. Is it possible for me to get 1,000 shillings? Yes. If not, what are the options available for me to get to do that? So once you identify, then I'll say, like, you can go out and reach out for that opportunity and buy the laptop, you know, and then, you know, set yourself up with the digital. But we have I know it's really hard. Some of it may take a little of some time to implement some of these things. But that will be my advice. Like, you know, we as a company, again, we're thinking, like, what we'll do in future will be, we may work with these young people, maybe like provide them with this kind of equipment. When the profits, you know, we're making very good profits, we're up there. So it's not just an individual doing it or a company doing it, it's an ecosystem. We work with the government, identify the opportunities are there, these young people has already identified. And some, maybe, it's just a suggestion, maybe if a young person is struggling to get a laptop, and we have some of the development partners or, you know, CDF funds. You know, the guests who were here before we came in were talking about the CDF funds. Politicians actually play a key role. We actually play a key role in this So there's the CDF funds. How do we support the young people out there? I don't know how that will work out, but it's important for everyone to be involved. Yeah, the private, you know, the public sector, and all that.
And even the young people themselves.
The young people themselves to be involved and trying to understand. But they need to not to make a move before they understand like what they're getting themselves into. And then, but most of it, for it to work, to be seen working, we need to have players like ourselves, or people who are able and capable to come and support the young people and position them there. Yeah. And
I would want to ask Humphrey, David, rather, why in this generation do you think that this generation is the right generation to push for the digital space, to get into that particular space, and why so?
Well, the easy answer there is I think all spaces are digital spaces. That's why, you know, we talk about a digital space, but really every space is a digital space. And I think the young people, especially this generation, even at very young age, they know how to do things with devices and computers that are almost instinctive. And so if it's instinctive for them at a young age, those things should be developed, because we know as much as devices are a part of our lives now, can you imagine 10 years from now, 20 years from now, we don't even know what's going to happen. If you look at the last 10 to 20 years to see where we've come in terms of usage of devices. But the young kids now, no matter where they are, they're growing up with these devices. And so some of the opportunities, if you think about it, marketing opportunities are always going to be there. You know, you can't really automate marketing opportunities because the market changes so quickly. You need somebody to understand what makes a person make a purchase. Why do they do it? What's behind it, not just here in Kenya or here in Africa, but globally, right? Because we need to understand those behaviors. And so I do think that, you know, defining it in a way that makes sense at an early age is good for these young people, because what we found in the last 3 years that we've been working together, these young people, even if they've come from marginalized areas, the young people in Kenya are super smart. No matter, even if they don't have a degree, they're really smart, and they absorb information really quickly. The question is, what information do you give them so that they can understand the global market? So they're in the digital space, but they need to understand what the global market is. When they have that understanding, they'll be able to make decisions a lot better. And there is one thing I wanted to bring up that's very important, I think, for this audience to know. And it's this. Yes, there is a work economy now that says you brought it up, the gig economy, right? So I'll just give you this work, and you work for somebody in, I don't know, Czechoslovakia. They give you work, you know, and you can work at your home for them. What we're seeing is those are not sustainable. You can get them 1, 2, 3, but somehow the management layer around technology is really important, because the management layer allows us to introduce more than technology to the young people. You see, a technology firm can't just teach technology. They have to teach social things, government things, economic things.
Well-round.
You said it, well-rounded. Can that happen in the gig economy? Or is it just doing something for a company so that they, you know, it's good for them, but is it good for the worker? So I think it's a good question to ask. The answer may be yes, but I'm also thinking, okay, but we have seen, as we've developed managers, how important they are to these young people. Mentorship, explanation, social, you know, things that are really important for day-to-day life. It has to be part of our solution. We cannot say that's for somebody else to do. And that's the ecosystem. When you talk about an ecosystem, that's what we're talking about, which I think is really important.
Okay, so we're moving away from the gig economy, that's what you're saying, and now mentoring them, empowering them in a management perspective, a way of thinking, knowing that this is why I'm doing this, you know. Empowering them to also rise up from whatever they're doing. So let's talk about the gig economy for a minute there. And people are doing it, and they've been trained on it in the digital training programs, and you're being trained as, you know, to be a transcriber, and you get a gig in one of the platforms we have. Is it Fiverr and
Upwork?
Upwork, yes. and the rest of them, but they're not sustainable enough again. So you get a gig today, tomorrow you don't get a gig, and then what happens after that? You lose your skill after that. So how different is yours now? Because you're also giving opportunities, you're paying people to train them. So there's such a difference in what needs to be done. Maybe I will ask you, Humphrey.
So, I mean, those jobs are really important because it gives you a head start, you know, to what you're going to experience in the future. You know, with that experience, there may come some kind of disappointments where you get a job today, tomorrow you don't. After a month, that's when you're securing another. What I think it's important to know that. And again, you talked about transcribing. Just remember that we have machines that are learning. There's machine learning, so machines are learning, and we're actually the ones who are training the machines to do that. So they come and take over these jobs. And I think you've seen these on YouTube. Really, there's no transcriber, but you know, you can actually get to see. They transcribe whatever you're saying there. Transcribe. So you need to just be prepared for the generation that is right now. Let's talk about us. We need to just be prepared about the future. Maybe what you'll be looking at will be a validator, maybe a quality person that will look at the transcribing wherever it's needed, proofread and all these kind of things. But it's important for people that are abled, you know, organizations that are able, you know, if they're providing that training, maybe they can move a little bit a notch higher and say, yes, you're providing this training, but are there opportunities for us to even reach out now to these people that are providing these jobs? You know, like what you're doing. We felt like it's really important for us to do that. To link them to the market. We are linking them to the market, and we're able to work with the companies to work on the different tiers. David and I are actually diversifying our interests, like the business opportunities that we're seeing. We're into cyberspace, software development. Of course, there's the real estate, and then the professional services. The professional services are things to do with marketing, you know, sales, IT, consulting, and the likes, accounting as well. We actually have that being done in Kenya by our team, the areas that I've mentioned. These people are working from home, but actually sitting in management in the US. Yeah, so helping this, you know, it's can be a challenge, but just going that a notch higher and talking to this, identifying the market, and then talking to these corporate people and, you know, getting a leeway with them to assist these young people, you know, get in and develop a tier for them is really important. So, yeah, but the way it is, it's good. It's a good start, like I mentioned. For you to start, you know, you get a gig here, you do it. I mean, we can't just throw that away because at least you're getting some income to it. But just like David mentioned, sustainability aspect is key. So for us, the sustainability component really is what drove us to do what you're doing right now.
Okay. Yeah. So the sustainability is you linking them to that opportunity, having them well on training, as you have already looked for opportunities that you can link them immediately after you feel that they are good enough.
Exactly.
Do you think that this should be done also with the training programs and projects and initiatives that the government has started and even the private institutions? What do you think about that, David?
I think it's you know, every sector of the ecosystem has their own agendas, you know, and I think that if it fits, and if they're able to do it, if they have the capability to do it, that's good. But we all have a part to play in it, and I think it's good. I think we can do some, obviously we can do some things the government has to do. Yeah. But we can do some things maybe the government can't do. So that's where a true partnership comes in, you know. So I think that if there's enough, if we can explain to these young people why we're doing the things we're doing and what this marketplace is, and when they start to understand that, you'll see that they are the ones that are going to start to create things, small things that are going to become big here, as opposed to something that was created in another country and then comes here. That's the end goal. The end goal is we need to be creating those things here in Kenya. And that will change the equation. So, for example, some of our young people that have come from, marginal spaces, they have shown such a intelligence for management and for thought process. They are definitely college material or something like that they want to do. They may go and do some things from us, but they're launched with such good background and such good baseline that they'll succeed.
Okay.
And we want that. We tell our young people, if you don't, if a few of you don't start businesses in the next 5 years, we'll be disappointed. It's not because we don't want to lose them. We know their capability, and we know that the way things can get better is when they take that chance and go do something. So some of the stuff that we're doing is so instructive because they start to put some things together. For example, competition. We're in the World Cup now. Everybody knows, everybody's thinking about competition, right? But how often do we talk to our young people about who are you competing with? Is it just with people here in Kenya, or are you competing with somebody in the Philippines and somebody in India? And what does that mean? Okay. So those questions have to be asked and answered, not by us, but we have to ask the question, and then we get the response from them, so we can understand how they're thinking. We can give some response, and I think from that they're growing.
And what has that done? That aspect of you probing them and letting them know what is in them, the potential that they hold, and opening their eyes to the potential that is out there. What has that done to them from the feedback from the feedback that you have had with the people that you have trained so far?
Yeah, it's something that we've seen is a change of mindset. So they're not limited. I like the way Kipchoge puts it, the limited word,
Yeah, no one is limited.
No one is limited. But you can only be unlimited in your potential if you're given the space to do it. And that's what we want. We're not putting you there and then we give you a instructional manual for you to go through and do the job and then just head home. But we're providing you with an opportunity to think outside the box.
Okay.
To participate in the process. Yeah. And by so doing, this person will be creative, open-minded, creative, bring some kind of innovation that maybe is needed in the business, and in so doing as well, something, they may think of something that they may want to do in future by themselves that we are not doing, and we'll support that. Okay. Yeah, that's why David talked about, we would like them to be entrepreneurs.
And what is the place of innovation, because you've mentioned that? What is the place of innovation in this space?
Innovation, I think it's boundless. That's how I can say it's boundless, and there's a lot that can be done. If, for example, if you had like good infrastructure, I know that the government has really done a good job with that. We actually, in Kenya is actually
one of the leading
in Africa. It's actually, sometimes you're rated first, second, So I would say like we are really the best. We have the best.
Silicon Valley.
Yeah, we have the best. And we like what the current government is doing, of course. The vision, the plans they have for the young people in the digital space. The new ICT, CS talks a lot about it, which is really impressive. That's the future. Digital space is the future. So I think innovation for me is boundless. If you give the young people the opportunity to have access to the technology, provided we have the right kind of infrastructure that is laid out for them, there's a lot of things that can come out. So 1,000 of them will gain access, like David said. 1,000 of them will gain access, but we may have like one of them that will come up with a product that's really, will do wonders to the world. Will do wonders to the world. It's only that most of them have not been given that opportunity. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm curious, I would want to ask, because you recruit these young people to your program where you train them, but there are only a few who make it, of course, and many people are looking for employment outside. When we were talking behind the cameras, you said out of 20 people, you get around maybe five people. So what is it that you look out for, that this one has an interest in this space, this one we can train? Yeah, David?
Well, I'm going to say Humphrey is amazing at recruiting, and he's the brains behind the recruiting.
So we're doing a better.
Well, because remember, I'm in the U.S. I'm located in the U.S. Humphrey's here. He's on the ground here. So Humphrey's knowledge of how to do this is amazing. So he's going to answer the question.
Better position.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So we have clear tests for these young people. Tests that they'll do, and we'll be able to know like this is the right candidate for this job. But however, we do not dismiss the rest. If we realize there's a potential in you, we'll consider you for the next position opening. So, and remember, there's a training aspect, and it doesn't mean that the person you're taking scored 100 or 80 or 90. Could be even a 50 or a 60. But we've seen the potential that they have with our tests that we're doing in the recruitment process, and we're able to provide them with an opportunity to train them, on the job and position them. However, one of the things that we've realized that is very essential and critical, and we should start this right from primary, going all the way to the universities. Communication is a big deal in this space. Remember, you're working remotely, so if you don't know how to communicate, then you can't make it. You can't hack it.
So the soft skills are also important.
Soft skills are very important. The expressive, the face-to-face, written, very important. So a lot of emphasis should be put in communication.
Okay.
Communication. So you should have the skill, and then you should be able to write. Communicate in writing, communicate in speech as well. Yeah. So if you get that, and I think David, you agree me. I think communication will take close to even 80%.
Yeah. 80% of it is communication.
I'm telling you, like, go for an interview, you're a good communicator. Even without the practical piece of it, you're taken, you're hired. You'll be hired because they believe that you can do it. So if you're a good communicator, that's communication for you to be successful in the digital space.
So that's a key thing that you look out for when you're getting into this. So what happens to that person who's, again, a techster? Because now we know that, or the perception rather, is that tech geniuses are usually not good in communication, especially those that are into coding and all that deep stuff. So what happens to them in that place?
Yeah. I think David will also answer this, but I think you don't have to speak fast for you to be a good communicator. Okay. You can speak slowly, but bring out the point. You understand? Yeah. But you can, at the same time, you're able to write really quick, So somebody may not really be that expressive or in, talking, but the enthusiasm must be in it. Okay. So remember, you're working remotely, so if you're not enthusiastic in your speech, in your talk, that's a big limiter, because I'm there. It's just like when you're talking on phone, the intonation really matters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You can tell a lot from it.
Yeah, you can tell a lot from it. Yeah, maybe David now can.
Yeah, David, what's your perspective on that?
Well, I agree that communication is really important, but your specific question was what happens to the ones that, aren't good communicators. I think part of our education is helping them and making them understand why. So we may have a young person that comes to us and says, I can code really well. Why should I communicate? But the thing is that just writing code is not enough, because you have to communicate around the requirements of the code. Communication is not just speaking, it's also understanding. Okay. And if you don't understand it, you write code, it's excellent, but it may not be what's needed. So what good is that, right? Yeah. So there is opportunity, even though we need people with good communication. Even the people that don't have communication, we know there's other skill sets, there's other places for them that they can go. And part of our strategy is how do we strategize on that, right? Because I think there's a place for everyone. But I think we can educate them towards better communication. Okay. And I think that is definitely one of our pillars, I would say, is for us to say, what are we doing as a company to help that? And I'll tell you, you asked about how do you know that they're doing what are the results? Some of the results are when Humphrey mentioned we have accountants and we have people in marketing and we have people in sales. It's not that we went to a client and said, oh, we have people in that. the client came to us because of the experience they had with our group and said, can you give us more?
Need more.
That's the best way to do it, right? So the question is, how do you get it to where the companies are asking, can you do this? I need you to do this. As opposed to us going, do you have work for us?
We need some jobs.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's a different way of thinking about it, right? It's a different approach, but I think it's doable because we've seen that happen with our clients, you know, and they're so. There's one. I'll give you this example. One of our cybersecurity. He's working with a young guy from Rochester Institute of Technology in New York. Young guy in the U.S. He didn't even know where Nairobi was until he started working with our team. It changed the way he started working. He was asking questions in his company. He started to do some research on Nairobi. He started to talk to his manager saying, there's more we can do in Nairobi. He had no idea where Nairobi was. You see, that type of connection comes because the young people here are so enthusiastic. They want to connect with the world. And through that connection, there's a feeling that happens. And that feeling is what makes opportunity. I understand it's the work, but it's also that emotional connection that we have with each other. And that can't be lost.
Okay.
And that, I think, is a big part of, you know, that's some of the things we talk about. How do we make more of this happen?
Yeah. Amazing. And you also mentioned, I think off camera, that these people, the people you train on, they should also know how to market themselves and put themselves out there.
Exactly.
So how do you enable them do that?
Yeah. So we have career, like we spoke about career development. We also, what we do is we will train you. We will help you package yourself really well. Tell you how to do it. But not just tell you how to do it, but most importantly, show you how to do it and why you need to do that. It's not just like, we don't want to be robotic in that nature, but we want to train them in such a way that they're able to position themselves up there. So if you're talking, for example, like we spoke about the transcribing jobs. These jobs are there, but you know, like machines are learning what you're doing right now. Yeah. So why not go a little bit further and say I can do validation, quality in this area? And then, you know, just that one point really will make a difference. So just one aspect of it. But again, I think the advantage we have, we do a lot of research, and again, the kind of interaction that we have with our partners way out there, we're able to understand what is there and help them position that themselves there. The current team that we have, we are able to work with them and start positioning them for the future. That's why I spoke about it and said, we are not just looking them working with us. If they get a better opportunity,
you allow them.
We allow them. We'll write them a recommendation because it's an opportunity they're giving for another person to come and work with us. Yeah. If they're elevated, it's good. Why not go and then somebody else will come? Yeah. But we put down very good transition measures just to make sure that there's continuity when that happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about perception? Some youths have it that, you know, maybe online work doesn't pay, or online work is not really legitimate, and some people have not really are not evolving with the digital evolution that is happening or the technological evolution that is going on. So what would you speak on that?
Well, again, I think, you know, different people define it differently, so we have to ask some more questions about why they feel that way, and we have to be more proactive and forward-looking, right? So one of the challenges that we have is, how do we become more predictive? Instead of reacting to what the world has done with technology, and we're always reacting to what the world is, how can we become more proactive with technology? You know, so we're talking about online things. That's maybe 10 years ago, people in other countries were doing that, and suddenly now we're seeing that coming. So we're always lagging behind. So one of the things that we want to solve is, can we be proactive? So for that person that comes in and says, I don't think it is, I think they've had a bad experience. And there's many bad experiences that you can have, not just with the technology space, but with any job, you can have a bad experience.
Sure.
But sometimes that bad experience is good because it sets the framework for something better to come.
Exactly.
Right? And so it's not enough that Inua AI exists. We want 100 Inua AIs that exist
True.
in Kenya. 100, maybe more, because we think that if that happens, there'll be a scale of development in the right way and a very uplifting way that can change things at the ground level.
Okay.
Right? At what we call the community level. How do we change things at the community level? And I think that's it matches what our culture is community. And so we ask about those questions. We want to understand that. And not only that, but the rest of the world, our clients, whether they're in US, UK, they're also interested in that. Everybody likes to talk about that. It's instructive for them, just like that example I gave you with that young man who didn't even know where Nairobi was because he's lived an existence where he didn't have to know. Now with this, he's able to not only know, but he's able to care about it. And so that's another thing that I think is really positive of what I call organic growth, right? Organic growth means that it's not funded by a lot of money or the government does a lot. It's we started this organically and it builds organically. And so now once it builds organically, it's more stable.
Okay.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. All right, we want to close this. We've come to the end of it. And just finally, I just want you to say, Humphrey, are there job opportunities, speak to that youth, are there job opportunities in the digital space and what possibilities lie in this particular space? And as David has said, it's everywhere is digital now. And as you also give us your social handles, if someone wants to reach your company, where they can get you.
So to the young person, you know, back there, it could be in the village, at home, in the city, the opportunity is there, but it's also important for you to know how to position yourself. So I think it will be important for them to reach out, and I know we've worked with quite a number of training institutions back at home in the rural areas, and as well as also in the slum areas. They're there. Reach out to them, identify those people that are doing those kind of digital kind of training, and then we have the government is supporting this initiative as well. We have the Ajira initiative. Be part of it. Join. Get to understand like what is really happening in that space. I think it's really important. So there's hope, but again, as hope exists, we need to put in a lot of effort to get there. Our social handles, you know, you can find us on Facebook, Inua AI Solutions, LinkedIn. I think as we are moving towards, you know, we have to go like in a professional line. You also need to learn to use LinkedIn as well. So we are on LinkedIn, Inua AI Solutions. Our Twitter handle is Inua AI, at Inua AI Solutions as well.
All right, so thank you very much, gentlemen. I believe we have gotten a lot of tips from that. We now bring this conversation to a close. We have been talking to David Millary, the president of EduPlus International, and also Humphrey Muchuma, founder and MD of Inua AI Solutions. We've been talking about the job opportunities in the digital space. Thank you for staying with us. My name is Stephanie Ayieta, and on behalf of the GMK team, we thank you for your company and we wish you a lovely day ahead. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.